Hi guys, it's Kiana again. Click the thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell. Bye!
You are now listening to the Re-Education Podcast.
Sam, what was your experience?
Yeah. I went to just a state school. I'm just like a standard state school, and I think I probably heard this when we were in Parliament. It's like school was, I don't know, it was weird. I have a kind of like distance from it because right now, I'm at a Russell Group University, and like just like me myself, I think at school, like I got invested into more, and so like my experience wasn't that bad, but like through my peers and my friends, I could learn from their experiences, people who weren't as invested in because like my school didn't get enough funding, and so they were just trying to churn out like the best grades. Like you see how people are like and just like left to like survive on their own resources, and like one main story that just never leaves my head is like in that classroom, seeing how the curriculum affects like Black people in real life. So yeah, I was in English class and we're doing like poetry, and like, there was just that one. There was one poem about like colonialism in like the Caribbean. I think it was by Benjamin Zephaniah, and I came out the class with my friends. We were just talking about it. Like everyone was kind of excited. There's like a Black poet in the class, and then my friend was like, "Oh, if Black people were so smart, why was there only one? Why is there only one poet in this like collection of like Britain's like greatest poems?" Seeing like in real time, the kind of someone like devalue their own like intelligence, because it was like a brilliant like intelligent girl, and just seeing like in real time someone like devalue their own intelligence and like start to see like their own Blackness as like something that demerits them because of the curriculum and what it shows and what it teaches us. Like that was like heartbreaking to see, and like that happened like across the whole school. It happened like lots of people feel that way. It happens across this whole country, and like it just gets passed on as like a normal thing. They're just like problem students or just like disengaged just because they want to be problem children and not actually acknowledging the roots of these problems. And so that's what a state school showed me about how curriculum affects students. Yeah,
It's like no attachment. This doesn't apply to me.
exactly.
You're not talking about me, and this will never be a reality for me. So I'm disengaging because I can't. It's not sinking because I don't understand who is this built for. It's not built for me, and that's a lot for a young person, a child, to have to deal with in school. We know that the pipeline from the education system to the criminal justice system, how it starts and where it ends. And I definitely believe that the education system itself and how inaccessible it is for children from non-white backgrounds, it is definitely a big factor and feeds into that level of disengagement, like you've mentioned, and being seen as a problem child and just naughty. No, it's because this is not for me. Was never designed for me, and people know that it wasn't designed for them. So it's just kind of like, that's just how it goes, and it's never going to change. Well, think again, because you got Akhera and Sam hot on the tail, making big changes.
I think that was another surprising thing as well, because when we started our campaign, there was an activity that we did. Because the Advocacy Academy is based in Brixton, we actually did a survey around Brixton, asking people about their perceptions of the curriculum, like specifically looking for like young Black people in the area and what they thought about it. And there was just so much apathy. Like we have as a community come to accept that we are just not gonna be acknowledged. And people are like, okay, like I think there was a young person who was about like 20, 21, and he was like, you know what, I've just given up. Like, I don't even expect the curriculum to speak to me as a person. I like disengaged with education like a long time ago. I don't expect anyone to teach about my culture. And I'm thinking, as someone who is actually like a British citizen, you like democratically, you have a right to be represented. And it was just sad to see, like, even within education, the place where like our most formative like years are spent, that people have given up their democratic right to be represented and a democratic right to have like knowledge about themselves. And yeah, I think you're right. There's a massive amount of apathy, and we're hoping that will change over the next couple of years.
Yeah, most definitely. Seeing as you were both in secondary school, when you started on the journey of the campaign and Rerooted, did you ever envisage that the work that you're doing, the resources you're creating, the partnerships that you're building, the networks that you're a part of, did you see that having any impact on children as young as reception?
I think initially we didn't, just because it was very much our lived experiences which guided us into creating this campaign. And we know that, again, when we do start building work that will eventually end up in schools, hopefully over the next year or two, fingers crossed, it will end up like affecting so many students, including young students. But I don't think we really thought that it could reach that level. But now I think definitely that's changing, because my sister is a school teacher. She works in a primary school, and she literally the other week asked me, like, are there any resources that you would be able to pitch to a year two? Like, I'm teaching year two right now. Do you think you'll be able to do that? And again, working with the Decolonising Geographers group, there are so many primary school teachers who are thinking about this stuff as well. And so I think in the long term, our goal will be to create a resource that gets taught in secondary schools, but can then have elements that you can extract and teach in primary schools, teaching things like empathy, teaching things like cultural plurality, and in really simple ways that young people should be able to have access to and just don't necessarily have now.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that just from a personal view because my two children are in primary school. My son's going to be going to secondary school next year, but it's just firsthand experience of I always believe that whenever you're talking or you're building something, it should be from experience. And if you don't have experience, then bring those that do have the experience in. So I'm really happy to hear that you went on along the lens of lived experience. So it was talking about what you know, what you've been through, to help form the basis of what you would do in Rerooted. But I definitely feel the benefits. I mean, there's so much to it, isn't there? There's representation, there's making things accessible for all, there's acknowledgement of the different cultures and backgrounds, ethnic groups in the schools, the teachers, the way in which you support all staff. I mean, something as simple as being in the playground and picking up my daughter. The class teacher is more open to having a conversation with a white parent than they are with myself or another black parent. And then I'm supposed to be like, oh, maybe it's because she didn't see me, or maybe it's because she doesn't have anything to say to me. But it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to talk to any parent. How else are they going to know how their child is doing, or, you know, being kept informed on different things that's going on?
And I definitely think what you're saying, like, it's so important that when we talk about decolonizing and we talk about anti-racism, it's like not just in the context of the curriculum. Like with us, we know we're working to our power here. We're people who have experienced the curriculum, so we're going to talk about the curriculum. But literally the whole superstructure of a school needs working on, from the top to the bottom, to people who are working in cleaning, who are working in catering in the school, who again disproportionately tend to be people of color, especially in my secondary school and primary schools. If their treatment is not right, if they're not getting paid like living wage, if they're not being able to have access to unions, if they're not having access to power in the way that they should have, then how can we expect that to even happen when we're talking about top-down approaches, when we're talking about the people who are in the friends of school boards and in the headmasters roles? Like it has to be everywhere that we talk about like deconstructing these power structures and like racism, microaggressions, and sometimes like blatant economic inequality and social inequalities in the schools. So 100% agree. It's like all these social interactions that need targeting.
We need to change the narrative, but we also need to disrupt the order in which things are used to going in. And it disrupting me, oh my gosh, it's all messed up now. We can't just fix this. We have to try and address the situation, address the mess, and create something new that includes all. And I'm about that. Be seen, be heard. Like, not just be seen, but be heard too. Like, not only my Black face is important, but my Black voice is equally as important. I'm curious to know, when you started the campaigning for Reroot ED, what was the what was the impression and the responses that you got from your schools and friends and family? What was it like?
I mean, I'll start first because my response was like much more positive than I expected it to be. Like, I know we just went through this like summer residential. I'm feeling like just like all happy with my blackness. I'm ready to shut everyone down, say no, you're a racist. I'm gonna tear down the school curriculum and that. And so because I just became part of my school's like SLT, one of the first things I put on the table is I want to try and incorporate this into the curriculum. And we had just like new teachers because we said before that my humanities department was all white, and like a new history teacher came in and he was already like doing like that kind of work, incorporating like blackness into the curriculum. Like I think it was like in year 8 he was teaching like pre-colonial African empires and introducing like blackness into like British curriculum. So I think while we were talking about like black tutors, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I was just like finding ways to incorporate like blackness. I just like to represent the people he was teaching into the curriculum that he was teaching. Like that school had like a very like high black, it was like a high black like demographic, and so why would it not be black people in the curriculum that we're teaching? And so it was like really like good for me to like work with him and incorporate that into the curriculum that he was teaching. So yeah, I think that my school had a relatively positive response, and they were like very eager to do all that they could.
That's amazing. That's so like refreshing to hear that they were open to, okay, this is what you're doing. Let's make it happen. It would have been were there any white teachers involved in that process, or was it just you and the new history teacher?
Yeah, you know, the history teacher was white. I'm like, I had the sixth form as a history teacher as well. I mean, but you wouldn't. That's the problem as well. But like, yeah, my head of sixth form, he did history as well. So I was talking to him about it, like he's white as well, and like both of them were just like heavily involved in incorporating that into the curriculum. Yeah, like, it was just refreshing and nice to see. Like, gave me hope.
Akhera, how did your family and friends respond to the launching of Reroot ED?
I think my mum came to it, and obviously she was like very happy, very proud about it. And I think with my friends it was really interesting because I think with like we organized a protest, and a lot of like again the people in our circles came, and it was so interesting engaging with some people from my sixth form who I'd not really spoke to that much, and they'd come to the protest because they like resonated with the whole discussion. And so I think it was nice in connecting new people to different like political struggles that they might not have really paid attention to before. And then in the school itself, there was a lot of resistance, I have to say. Like, it highlighted how binary my school was, because there were teachers who were actively like bringing in people to do this. We had like sixth form societies that were having these conversations about like decolonial narratives and like power structures.
I was in a webinar where it was talking about race in the coaching space, and the way in which they spoke about everything that's happened so far in this year, they refer to it as not a pandemic, a triple pandemic. We had COVID-19, we had George Floyd being murdered, plus Breonna Taylor being brutally murdered. Then we had the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. That's 3 things that's happening. Even COVID-19, we know, as they've stated, it's affected BAME communities more than any other. So when you look at it from a race perspective, we've had a lot of things go on since March till now, and don't know when it's going to end.
I definitely think as well that there needs to be a better collaboration between like you as a Black parent and the like higher levels of management in schools, because I think that, I don't know, across the board, that there seems to be resistance or fear to speak to like Black communities as a whole. And like there are spaces where Black parents come together, or you might have a conversation with like another Black parent, and like beautiful things come out of those conversations. So the fact that schools are not listening to that is, yeah, quite sad.
Yeah, very sad. I really want to thank you guys for giving some time to feature in on this episode. It's been something that I've wanted to reach out to you both for a long time, but I just didn't have the capacity for it. And nothing happens before it's time, and timing is things always happen to fall into place. And this is, yeah, it's been wonderful, and I hope that people listening have gained a lot. And reach out to you both. Reach out. Like, if you want more information, reach out. And if you want to ask for follow-up questions, reach out. The guy, they'll give you their communique in a little while. But before we move on to final thoughts, what's next for you both, and what's next for Reroot ED?
Okay, what's next? Well, for Reroot ED, we are now designing a program that we've recently got funding for, to design a program that centers marginalized voices within classrooms. So we're aiming to focus this resource that we're building within communities, and then create it as a geography-based and history-based resource, talking about topics such as empire, migration, place, and like local histories within the curriculum. And it will be a oral histories resource, so we will be able to have conversations with people and get the nuance out of their narratives, which can't be summarized in textbooks. And often, like, I think Black narratives and global narratives are put as like footnotes. And so this resource that we're hoping to develop with like students, communities, academics, will put an end to like the marginalization of our voices. It will put our voices in the center and start these conversations about what to do moving forward with the issues that like marginalized identities face. So that's what we're doing. It's called the Voices Project, and it will be developing over the next year or so. And personally, just I'm gonna keep being in spaces, keep speaking, keep learning, because this is a whole process of learning. I think people think that if you're campaigning, you know everything, and you really don't. We're learning about what being an educator means as young people, like how we are role models, how even with this Black History Month, we had to do research ourselves about Black histories. Like, I think we learned more over this month than we probably have in the entire year, about ourselves, about our histories. And so I think we constantly have to be doing the research, constantly have to be campaigning, have to be pressuring, and learning, so that we can bring knowledge to our community. So yeah, that's me over the next year, trying to learn more.
Exciting.
Okay, Akhera. That man centered on learning as well. But it's like, I mean, literally, I was going to talk about how much learning I've done over this past year, just like with everything. And like, that's what I love about doing the campaigns, that it forces us to learn, because we want to like be able to like move forward, and like as we like grow older and like develop further with this campaign, I'm just gonna have to increase, and that's what it's been doing so far, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I guess like outside of the campaign, like I'm doing like other like stuff of the campaign, like focus on other like political education and educating others as well. And like radicalizing people, just like if you have to fight for it, you don't necessarily have the words or that means. Like I'm like excited about giving people the means to be able to put like their feelings into action and better like their own community. So that's like, to understand that I guess practice my craft, like fine tune my facilitation, and obviously get through this degree. So yeah, I think that's where life has taken me now so far.
That's amazing. And shout out to the Advocacy Academy, yeah? Shout out to Amelia. Yeah. You're doing amazing work with the change makers of tomorrow, of next year, the next decade. Like, shout out, because just listening to your story and your journey on your campaign whilst you're studying, whilst you're, still doing young people stuff. Like you've been given an opportunity to look at it really realistically. Like, not, you know, what's your wildest dream? Then go for it. And then get all of the heartache and the pain and the letdown because it didn't go how you imagined it would go without having any like real life reality checks. I just really want to shout out Amelia and the lovely work that she's doing over there at the Advocacy Academy, because it really is building and creating and supporting, nurturing, mentoring the change makers of today, of tomorrow. And the children are our future. And I mean, if you could, whatever you accomplish within Reroot ED, a child and another young person will pick up, and it will continue. All about legacy. And I really do commend you both. But thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your continuing journey. And, you know, let me know if you need help applying for other funding as well, because I do that. And I'm a coach. I do that.
Absolutely.
So let me know if you need any support. And guys, please share your socials or your website, your handle, your emails, share any means of communication that the listeners can get in contact with you.
So our Twitter and our Instagram are both Reroot, that's REROOT _ED, so Reroot _ed. And our email is reroot.edu, so reroot.edu@gmail.com. And that's how you can contact us for any like inquiries or like any projects that you'd like our help in. Or if you want to help us in the Voices project or anything like that, that's how you can contact us.
Yes. And we have a YouTube now.
Yes.
With all of our videos from Black History Month, which can be used throughout the year, because Black History is not just valid for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Guys, all the details can be found down below in the description box. And if I've become tech savvy, there should be a direct link to YouTube. But no, Akhera, Sam, thank you so much. You are amazing people, and I'm glad that I could bring you to the platform so you can share exactly what you're doing and where you've come from to where you're going. And yeah, please, any final thoughts that you want to share before we say goodbye?
Okay. Well, I definitely think that if anyone is planning on starting a campaign or starting an action in the space that you're in, community is so important, and get your community involved just in a conversation at first, like, because I think it's really hard in a climate of opposition all the time to start something on your own. So start that conversation, get your allies, and just do it. Just take a leap of faith.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just bouncing off what Akhera just said. Like, no one has run a campaign on their own. Like, no one's ever done that. Even like the great figures you see, Martin Luther King, he had help. Malcolm X, they all had help. They weren't the only people. Like Black Panthers, that was a whole coalition that spread across America, and that's how they got to where they got. That's how those goals were achieved. So community, like Akhera said, is very important, and it's like the crux of everything that we do. Like, I can't imagine doing this campaign without Akhera, and so.
You guys are so sweet. I love you so much. Thank you for coming onto the Re-Education podcast. I've been Simone, as I do. And guys, I hope that you've got some real gems and you've been inspired, because I'm inspired by Akhera and Sam and what they're doing. And again, as you know, if you've got any comments, please drop them down below. If you want to get in touch, emails are down below. Guys, share and have conversations. Get in touch. And I look forward, as always, to continuing to learn and grow with you all. Bye.
Bye.
Hi guys, it's Keanu again. You're listening to the Re-Education podcast.